Thanks very much, Chris. I'm Paul, and I'm the founder of the charity Stay Up Late, and I'm going to do a quick intro to how our charity came about to start with, and then go on to talk about some of the effect of the pandemic on people with learning disabilities and what's come out of that for us. I was in a punk band with 4 other men, and 3 of those had learning disabilities, and we were called Heavy Load. And we used to play all round, this was in the 90s, we used to play all around the country. We were quite an unusual thing. We used to get invited to play all sorts of gigs, and always at 9 o'clock, the same thing would happen. Half our audience would leave. They were generally people with learning disabilities themselves, and they would leave. And that's not because we were just about to get on stage and unleash a barrage of noise and swear words at them. It was because their support workers couldn't work late. And so we spotted this real inequality for people with learning disabilities, that many people with learning disabilities need support to go out. And if their support staff can't work late, they simply can't be part of the usual things that many of us take for granted when we socialise, like going out, see gigs, see our friends in pubs, that sort of thing. Then a weird thing happened to us. This film director called Jerry Rothwell heard about us, and he followed us around for 2.5 years and made a film also called Heavy Load. And this is a real fact. I've not made this one up. This quote from Mark Kermode: "If Heavy Load isn't in your top 5 documentaries of the 21st century, then I don't want to know." So he was a massive fan of the film, and the film sort of talks about our strange existence. But we knew that the band wouldn't last forever, and in 2012 we split up after 15 years of complete anarchy, and we started the charity Stay Up Late to carry on the work we'd started. We'd started this big conversation about the injustice of people not being able to stay up late, but I felt passionate that I didn't want to just leave it there hanging, and that I wanted to try and be part of doing something about changing that for people. And so as a charity, we now do 2 main things really. One is our volunteering programs, which is Gig Buddies and Sports Buddies, and then the other is our No Bedtimes campaign. So the No Bedtimes campaign is kind of a wider thing, trying to get local authorities to commission contracts and support that ensure that people can live flexible lives. And Gig Buddies and Sports Buddies is our practical solution. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about how they work in a moment or two. And we've been going for 10 years now. So one of the things that we did at a number of workshops and conferences was work with people with learning disabilities and ask them what they wanted from their lives, what they wanted their lives to look like. And generally it just got boiled down into these few things. And if you look at, we called it our manifesto for an ordinary life, because really it's just the things many of us take for granted as ordinary, you know, choosing where you live, who your friends are, what time you go to bed, being able to decide how you live your life, the right to having relationships, being valued for who you are, having a paid job, and having people in your life who you choose to be there. That's ordinary stuff, but a lot of this stuff isn't ordinary, sadly, for people with learning disabilities. So all of this has kind of underpinned our whole sort of approach to how we work, how we campaign, and what we try and do and what we try and change. So Gig Buddies was the sort of game changer for us. We started that 9 years ago in Brighton. The concept is really simple. We match up people with a learning disability with a volunteer who shares the same interests in music. And then they just go out together to mainstream events as friends. And that's the really simple concept. And we started it in Brighton, and now we run it across Sussex. But often I'm talking at sort of local authority events and things like that, and I get asked to explain Gig Buddies. And sorry, I've missed out a little bit there. This is the Flaming Lips link. So gigs are great if you love loud music, crowds, flashing lights, and mayhem like a Flaming Lips gig. But that's not for everyone. And we were really clear at the beginning of Gig Buddies, it's actually not about gigs. As much as our charities stay up late, it's not about staying up late, it's about deciding how you live. Gig Buddies, it depends what your gig is. So it can be anything. It could be classical music, football, going to the theatre, eating out, dancing, going for nature walks, absolutely anything. It's not for us to say, it's for us to sort of facilitate people to go and live the life that they want. And before we went out and sort of started up the project, we did some research with the University of Brighton to find out what the barriers were to people going out. And you know, again, no surprises. What we found, some practical ones, but also stuff around people's mental health and needing support, and that not being provided. And also sort of on the back of austerity, support being cut and cut and cut. So, you know, having a social life isn't really seen as an essential part of that anymore, sadly. And now we've added COVID to that list as well. But what we also found was that there was a total desire to get out. So when I talk about the project to people from local authorities, they get really excited by this slide because it's got all this jargon in it that links to the Care Act about community capacity and assets-based approaches and stuff like that. But as I always say, blah, 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 because that doesn't speak to people who maybe could become volunteers, and it certainly doesn't speak to people with learning disabilities. And so we set up Gig Buddies, and it's been running really, really well. We've got in excess of 100 volunteers all going out and doing one-to-one things all the time. We had some brilliant evaluation done, you know, that showed that actually the project was building resilience in people. They're going out more in the evenings, not just with their buddy. It was making them feel less lonely, making new friends in addition to their buddy. So all really brilliant stuff. And that's what we call serious fun, because it's doing serious stuff, but it's fun at the same time. And then we got approached by other organisations who wanted to replicate our work. So we've ended up sharing it around the UK and in Australia too. But then the pandemic happened, and there's this story of at the dance tent at Glastonbury a few years back. There was a flood, and they brought in this machine to suck out the water out of the dance tent, but the operative turned the switch from suck to blow and ended up spraying human excrement all over the dance tent. And that is how, in a sense, we felt the pandemic was for us. We were having a festival of fun, and then this happened to us, you know, in a metaphorical sense. Shit happened, and in a sense, the pandemic could have given us a real existential crisis about, well, there's no gigs to go to, nothing to stay up for. What's the point in existing as a charity? But we said no to that. We really, reframed what we're doing and said, actually, what we're doing is about connection and friendship, and that has never been more important than a time like this. So we reimagined all our work, took loads of it online. We started some new projects, and we carried on regardless. And this is some of the sort of the comments from some people with learning disabilities about the impact of the pandemic on them. I've lived in supported living. I used to go on the bus on my own, but since the pandemic, all my confidence has gone. I'm quite nervous about going to nightclubs again. I'm worried that the pandemic will set people with learning disabilities back 30 years in terms of how far we've come. And they're talking about in the context of inclusion and being included and able to partake in things in the community. And I often use this quote. I think we've all experienced some levels of social isolation over the last couple of years, and I'm always reminding my team of this, that this is the core purpose of our work is supporting people to feel loved, but also another great punk, I think, puts it another way, just bloody love each other properly. So I was thinking, what's a picture of resilience? Well, this was Michael, our drummer, when we played at Glastonbury in, I think it was 2011. It was a very muddy year, and we could have given up and said, oh no, the festival's ruined, or we could just eat chips and get on with it. And that's why I love that photo. That's Michael eating chips and just getting on with it. So that's kind of bit about our work and how it fits. And I suppose the other thing I'd say about relating it to Brighton and Hove is that we had a good idea it would work in Brighton, and all I can say is that most people are nice, and it's a very comforting thought. Most people are nice, and as we've shared it around the country, we've found the same. Most people are nice and are not pouring out bile on Twitter. So thank you very much.